I'm Brittany. I'll be your host. I would like to welcome Pastor Danny Wright and his lovely wife, Miss Miranda Wright. And I'll let them take the seat.
Hey, I'm Miranda Wright. Boo called and told us, he said, we have a problem with the class. I said, what's wrong? He said, we got too many for the museum. We got to move it over to the fire department. I said, that sounds like a good problem. I'll take them kind of problems.
That is a good problem. Thank y'all so much for coming.
Yeah, thank y'all for turning up. So he asked us to do a little teaching, a little seminar on medicinal herbs, which is great. This is the great time of year to do that because we have so much stuff that's just coming out right now in the wild that is free that you can get a hold of. So most of the things I'm going to show you are going to be completely recognizable. We do have pictures. We're going to talk about it. But you're going to recognize most of it as stuff that you have around your house. So just to kind of introduce ourselves, I'm Miranda Wright. This is my husband, Daniel Wright. We are, first and foremost, pastors. We are ministers in Lettsworth, which is not too far from here. My husband is the preacher, and I'm the teacher. If you don't know the difference, teachers tell it and preachers yell it. And we're also, he has a studio business, Wright Studios, where he does videography and photography, mostly making commercials and things for coalitions and government entities that help to bring awareness to prevention for underage drinking, fentanyl, drug awareness, suicide prevention, things like that. And we also run, and have for many years, probably 15 years now, a popular YouTube channel called Survival HT. HT is in how to, where we just teach homestead skills, survival skills, foraging, things like this. It started out years ago as a way to answer a question on a forum that we were running on some websites that people were asking how to do something, and it's like, you know what, it's easier to show you than to explain it, and God just blessed it, and it took off. So it's become quite popular, and we got connected with Boo and them over the years, and we've done some videos in the museum, the country store next door. So we just love them and their family now, and we appreciate them. So that's who we are. If we have our church contact cards there, the Wright Studio contact cards, you can look up to the YouTube channel. If you enjoy the material today, but it's way too much to remember, because it will be, you can go within a week or so, we'll post the full video on the YouTube channel, so you can go back through it and get what you really want from it. I'll also say, too, that most of the material I'm going to give you today can already be found on the YouTube channel, on Survival HT. There's a whole playlist called Wild Edibles that you can go through, and the things that I'm giving you are really just highlights. It'll go much more in depth on each one on the channel, because I would have to keep you here for a week to go through all the material. So we're just going to hit on highlights. But you can go dig up more if you want. So when you're talking about survival skills or living off the land, most people, for one, you want better health, because you know that most of the things you get from pharmaceuticals are in the stores. It helps you in the short term, but it hurts you in the long term. And the more natural things typically help you and don't hurt you as much. Some people just want to be prepared in case you have supply chain problems, and those do happen, and they've happened more and more recently, and they're going to happen more and more. So it's important to know how to just go outside and find something that's going to be helpful, nutritious, or medicinal. It's good to know. It's good to happen. I used to say, we learned one thing back in Katrina. You can prepare for anything, and it can all be stolen in a day. But they can't take your knowledge away. If you know what to do, what to find, what to look for, you have that with you no matter where you are. Another thing I think that's very important when you're talking about natural healing is your spiritual state. Because the main trigger for sickness and disease, number one, is stress. So it's very important to have a faith that helps you to know that God is in control and I don't have to stress. Even if the world falls apart around me, he'll be with me and take care of me. So as ministers, I think those are very important points that we have to take with us and remember that you can have everything that you think you need. If you don't have God in the end, you don't have what you need. And it will help your health to have a spiritual foundation. Because if I can trust God to take care of my situations, that's going to alleviate a lot of fear and stress and keep me from getting sick. So, another thing that's very important is community. Community is important when you're in, again, the people that we have, that we teach, that we lecture to, sometimes they just want healthier lifestyles. But a lot of times it's because they see what's going on in the world and they want to be prepared no matter what. You cannot make it through an emergency situation on your own. You need faith, and you need friends, and you need family, and you need people you can trust and can depend on. So I think that in these situations, community is important because we're all good at something, but nobody's good at everything. So for example, in our church, we have, our church community, everybody's sharing, everybody's helping each other. My brother grew an abundance of cabbages this year, so he brings in 100 heads of cabbage and says, take what y'all need. My father-in-law is really good at cantaloupes. He always has an abundance of cantaloupes, so he brings in bushels of cantaloupes. Take what you need. Somebody has a knowledge base. There's an older person who knows how to make things grow and how to teach these young people that are just getting off of drugs and didn't have that family experience, how to raise livestock, how to grow gardens. It's good to pool your resources. So it's important, I think, if you don't have a community, get a community. People that you can trust, people that you can share with, people that you can share knowledge and share resources. And a church family is a good time to do that, a good way to do that, because it's usually people you can trust. And if it's not, get another church. So, we're going to start looking at some of the wild edibles and medicinal herbs that are coming into bloom right now. The things that you can easily identify and find. We're going to touch on the main things that they're good for. Again, I can't give you every detail because we don't have time, but if you go to the YouTube channel, you'll find more on them. The first one we're going to look at is dewberry or blackberry. They actually are different. We're about to go into berry season, and thank you, Jesus, we're going to have a good one this year. They are everywhere. The last few winters, we had late freezes. Very disappointing. But this year, we're going to have a lot. Blackberries actually come out later in the season. They grow on poles. We tend to call the ones that come out now, it's like a wild berry. We call them dewberries. They're more in vines. They have pretty much the same nutritional value, the same medicinal purposes. It's just a technicality. They are very high in resveratrol. Most of your purple berries, that would be like the mulberries, the blackberries, the dewberries, they're high in a substance that helps to actually clean out your arteries. So they're very good for anybody who is Cajun. Anybody that eats cracklins and boudin, eat your purple berries too. Right, because it will help to clean out the plaque out of your arteries.
Do blueberries help with that?
Blueberries will help. The purple ones tend to do a little better. Blueberries are very anti-inflammatory though, so they're good for arthritic conditions. And they're also they're both high in antioxidants, which is going to protect all of your organs. So most of your berries are always going to be very good for you. And berries tend to be low on the glycemic index, so they won't spike blood sugar. Even though they seem sweet, they're not that sweet in glucose. So berries are always a healthy choice, a good snack. So blackberries are good for cardiovascular health, all of your insides. They're high in the antioxidants. Antioxidants, you're going to see this come up again and again and again in the things that are good for you. Antioxidants are compounds that mop up all of the toxins and chemicals and bad things in your body, so they're protecting your organs from being damaged by bad things. So anything high in antioxidants is going to be good overall. Anti-aging is going to protect your organs. You want to get as much of that as you can in everything. Natural foods are high in it. Processed foods are not. Processed foods have all of the bad things that hurt your organs. The natural foods have the things that protect your organs. Blackberries are going to be high in minerals and in vitamins. They're very dense. in nutrition for how little you have to actually eat. They're good for decreasing blood clotting. So a lot of people after COVID or after the vaccine, because of the way the spike protein worked, had a lot of issues with blood clotting. So these are things that will help to reduce overclotting of the blood. It helps to increase cellular respiration, which is oxygen moving through the cells to the different parts of your body, which basically translates to more energy. My body can breathe. You want that. It improves inflammatory issues of the lungs. And if you take the leaves, now we all eat the berries, but the leaves are edible too, but they're tough, so it's not something you're typically going to want to just chew on, but you can make a tea with it that will actually help to alleviate diarrhea, which is good because when we were kids, the berries usually gave you diarrhea. So you eat the berries and then you drink the tea and you're okay. For every problem, God creates a solution. But the actual reason for that is actually because they're high in vitamin C content. And when you're a kid, your body makes its own vitamin C. The older you are, the less it makes. That's why it doesn't cause that problem with older people, because you need all that vitamin C. When you're a kid, you're just basically getting a vitamin C overload from it. So it's nothing dangerous. So eat your blackberries.
So overall, you could drink it in a nice little blackberry wine. It would just handle all problems.
Well, it would give you some benefit, but you would do better to actually just drink the juice, because you actually gain a lot of problems from the alcohol too. Because alcohol is a carcinogen. Yeah. Alcohol is a carcinogen, so it is going to cause damage to the liver and to the other organs. So that's doing the opposite of what you want to do, even though it might make you feel happy for a little while. Here's the thing. If you buy blackberries or fruit like that at the store, it's still better than buying a candy bar. But you're not going to get the nutrition density that you would if you grew it yourself or if you found it in the wild. Wild food is always more nutrient dense than farm-raised food because of the ground being depleted. And also, over the years, they've chosen plants that were prettier, that were sweeter, that people liked more, and cultivated those. But that tends to raise the sugar content and lower the nutritional content. For example, sweet corn. My dad used to always tell me, because he would grow something called pencil cob corn, and it's an old-fashioned variety of corn. And the protein in that is like many times higher than the modern variety sweet corn. Well, the modern variety sweet corn is prettier, it's sweeter, people like it more. But if you go out in the woods and you drop pencil cob corn and you drop modern G90 sweet corn on the ground, the deer and the wildlife is going to always pass up the modern sweet corn and go to the old-fashioned pencil cob corn, because it has more nutrient, it has more protein, and they know that's what they need. They're not eating just for pleasure, they're eating to survive. So they're going to always go towards the older varieties, the more wild varieties. So if you're wanting to eat for pleasure, then you go to the modern stuff. If you're wanting to eat for health, look for older variety or wild food. And it's going to take less of it to get what your body needs, so you're not going to be hungry, craving, snacking, gorging, gaining a bunch of weight because you're eating empty calories but not actually getting the nutrition that you need. That's the main problem today with our weight problems, is that we're eating all day and still starving to death because you're not getting any actual nutrition. For those who hunt or may have when you eat wild game, it fills you up and you're satisfied for a long time, compared to when you go get something from McDonald's and you eat so much and 5 minutes later you're starving again. It's because your body's still looking for what it needs. It didn't get what it needed. So yes, you can buy it at the store. It would be better than eating junk. But if you can grow it or if you can forage it, you will get more nutrition. So snakeberries. Snakeberries, when we were kids, we ate snakeberries and they taste terrible. But they look so good, they get you all the time. This was bound to taste good. It looks like a strawberry. Oh no, it still tastes like bitter spit. But they do have a purpose. They do have some value to them. The natives use them to treat snake bite. That's actually why they call them snakeberries. And the reason for that is because when you eat them, it does stimulate the immune system. It is a source of vitamin C, iron, and protein. It kind of gives you the things that you need to kind of come out of a snake bite. And they came out around the time of year when the snakes were starting to move around and you get bit by snakes. So it's more of a survival food. It's not something you would eat because you want to. It's more of a, I need the nutrition, and I see that, and I recognize that, and now I know it is edible. It won't kill me. So they can be eaten raw. You can eat the leaves. You can eat the greens. You can make a tea with it. Some people make tinctures and teas from them that are used to treat boils, abscess, eczema, ringworm, psoriasis, different issues of the skin, lung issues. It's traumatic injuries, basically anything on the skin that you need to heal or soothe. It's good for that.
So do you apply it to the skin or just by drinking it?
But, well, drinking it, but if you have a skin issue, you'd want to apply it to the skin, like make a tea with it and put the tea directly onto the skin.
Or could you crush a berry and just rub it on the area?
You could. It wouldn't hurt. Now, to get the nutrition out of the leaves and stuff, you would almost have to make a tea with it because you wouldn't get much juice out of the leaves. They're real dry.
So to make a tea, you
Boil it in water.
boil it, the leaves, do you do the roots?
Just the leaves and the fruit.
The leaves and the fruit?
Yeah, and then you just apply the water to whatever skin issue you have. It's soothing. Wild onions. Wild onions are coming in right now, and I know because I cut grass yesterday, and it was terrible. I cut the grass in my garden, and I need a gas mask. It tears me up. But they do have some value. The reason it's tearing you up is because it's full of sulfur. And sulfur-bearing foods are actually very good for your liver. They help to detox the body. They fight off infections. They're good for digestion and urinary tract issues. They can be used to make a mosquito or insect repellent because they don't like it either. Nobody does. Onion and garlic are both very good natural expectorants. In fact, you can crush it up and mix it with honey and make a homemade cough syrup from onion. And wild onion works even better because it's a little more potent than the store-bought onions. You can actually make a poultice with it, which is basically just smashing it up and putting it under a little cloth that holds it to the skin and put it at the bottom of your feet. This is really good for small children that are too young to take a lot of cough medicine and stuff. Put it under the feet, tape it on, put their sock on, let them go to bed. It'll stop the cough so they can sleep for the night, and it'll help you get over colds and stuff quicker. But it's basically a natural expectorant.
Can you dehydrate it and use it also?
You can dehydrate it. I don't know how well of an expectorant. It would still be good in food, but when you lose all of the juices, you might lose some of the potency. But what you can do is you can just crush it up, put it in honey, close it up, and it'll last a year or two in the honey. And then what you do is you just go and take a little spoonful when you need it as a cough syrup. And you don't have to wait 6 hours before you can take another dose because it's just honey and onion. So you can take as needed. I'll tell you another really good expectorant is pineapple juice. If you mix garlic and pineapple juice, you will cough everything out and you will be fine. You'll feel fine. It works.
You would just crush a clove, chop a clove up?
Crush a little clove of garlic and just some pineapple or a little pineapple juice, or put it together in like a little smoothie or whatever. Honey and lemon are good too. But those two together are really good expectorants. They work better than any over-the-counter expectorant you're going to find. I made it through COVID pneumonia without going to the hospital with pineapple juice and garlic. It really, really helps. All right, thistles. Everybody's favorite yard plant. Thistles are actually really, really, really good for you. And they taste really good too. Just get a really long knife. We have videos that kind of show you how to do it. Super easy if you've never done it. Just something long enough to not have to touch it. Cut the top off, cut the leaves off, and shave it or just pull the outsides off. The inside is kind of the texture of celery, but it's not stringy, and it's kind of just clean and crisp like a cucumber. It's really good. As kids, we always ate it with like vinegar and salt and pepper. We love thistles. Thistles are probably the best plant in the world to protect your liver. We don't realize how important our liver health is, but really most of the more serious ailments that we know about that we think are originating from the kidneys failing or the heart failing, really even the pancreas failing, really they originated from liver damage. And when the liver stops being able to do what it needs to do to detoxify the body, then the other organs have to start trying to take up the slack, and they burn out quickly because they were never designed to carry that load. The liver actually has the ability to completely regenerate every 6 weeks. It's the only organ that can regenerate itself. And the reason it's like that is because God designed it like that because it knew it was going to carry the load. Problem is we overload the load. When you're eating chemicals and processed food and junk and all of this stuff all the time, it's just more than it can bear. So you begin to wear it down to the point where it can't keep up its regenerative abilities. But thistle is a way you can protect it. Even if you have to take medication, you can take milk thistle with it, or you can eat thistle, and that's going to help to protect your liver, which will protect everything else down the road.
How would you prepare that for consumption?
There's a couple of different ways. The way we typically eat it is in a salad, like I said, with vinegar, salt, and pepper. We just eat it like a cucumber, like a vegetable.
Just like that right there. You just cut it up with a pair of scissors?
We just take a large knife, and we have videos on the YouTube channel that'll show you. Cut the top off and just cut the sides off because the leaves are very spiny. Don't touch them. They have thorns on them. Yeah. And cut them off. And then the stalk itself doesn't have any thorns on it. And so you cut that up and put that in a salad. You can dehydrate the flowers, the little seeds, and you can eat those. You can make teas with them. A thistle, the entire plant is actually edible. You can eat the roots. You can eat all of it. You can cut the spines off and eat the leaves too. It's just a lot of work, but you can eat the greens on it. The whole plant is edible, and it's all very nutritious.
Is that out now?
Those are coming up right now. Walk around barefooted and you'll find them.
It gets pretty hot.
They do. They can get, around here, they can get pretty high, but typically they're about like this.
Well, the reason why I say that I got stage 4 cirrhosis of the liver.
You'll want to eat thistle.
I want
And
to eat a lot of it.
you want to eat a lot of thistle. Yeah.
It's more popular toward Vachery and all that.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and you can go anywhere that they sell vitamins or supplements, you can get thistle supplements. That for, if you like it, because they come out in the spring to early summer and that's it. And if you can't get them through the rest of the year, you can get thistle supplements. And if you have liver issues, I would take them every day. Actually, if you don't, but you take medication, I would take it every day because you need to buffer that liver because it's going to do damage long term.
Everybody got a fatty liver. They don't know it.
Yeah, anybody who's eating high fructose corn syrup is going to have problems with fatty liver. Your pancreas is designed to process glucose. Your liver processes out the fructose. So what your pancreas can't handle, the liver's handling. And we always watch our glucose level, but we're not watching our fructose level. So even things like too much fruit juice is a load. The body is not designed to eat as much or as frequently as we do now. And without giving those organs time to rest and to repair, it falls behind. Just like if you work every single day and never rest, you start falling apart. So just don't push your body as hard. If you give it more nutrient-dense food and eat less often, it'll be better for the body because it has time to heal in between. Probably, like I said earlier, we're starving all day long because we're eating things that aren't actually helping us. The thistle is good for the spleen and the gallbladder as well. It promotes healing of all of these organs, and it prevents the replication of cancer cells. So it's not technically healing cancer, but it's preventing it from replicating. So it is stopping a spread. So there's a lot of good benefits to thistle. Thistle is one of those things that most people probably should be eating pretty regularly. Clover. We all have some clover. My uncle went to a very fancy restaurant one time. There you go. She's prepared. My uncle went to New York to a very fancy restaurant, very expensive, where they fix you tiny amounts of food in very pretty presentations. And they brought him a salad, and it was a big bowl of clover. And he said, "Where I come from, this is what the cows eat." My cousin was like, "Oh my God, Daddy, stop." But the cows know what to eat. Yeah. The cows are healthier than us sometimes. Clover has a pretty interesting history. Clover is important to know because you get it everywhere. It has some medicinal benefits, but it's also just a good readily available food source if you're in an emergency situation. The clover was eaten by the Irish during the English occupation. For reference, that would be kind of like the Braveheart movie time frame when the English were occupying Ireland, and they had a lot of oppressive rules and regulations on them. They were trying to starve them out. They were trying to kill out a lot of the population. The Irish, being suppressed of having their supply chains and things available, resorted to eating clover. So it became known as rebel food. And the English tried to outlaw the consumption of grass, which you cannot do. But that's what governments do. That's what they try to control everything. So, but a lot of people's lives were saved from being able to eat clover. Clover is completely safe. It's edible. It's a high source of vitamin A. Red clover is good for skin ailments, kind of like what we mentioned earlier, like make a tea from it and put it on skin ailments. It's gentle enough to even use as an eye wash. The white clover, if you make a tea and drink it, is really good for coughs, colds, and even fever. So there's a good bit of vitamins in it that if you drink it, it just helps to get over those colds quicker. Really high amounts of vitamin A, which is important when you're sick to help you get better quicker.
Could you eat it raw?
You can eat it raw. Yeah, you can eat it in a salad. You can eat it just like that.
Handful of it.
Just a handful of it. We ate them all the time as kids. The flowers, we would pluck the little flowers and kind of suck on them like a honeysuckle. There's a really sweet little nectar. You can eat the whole flower, but when we were kids, all we cared about was the sweet, so we would do that, just suck the little flowers and spit the rest out. There's a sweet nectar in the flower. They're very light, they're very delicate. They make a good tea. The white ones have a little bit of a chamomile effect, so it's a very calming tea. Of course, no caffeine. So it's a good light spring tea. So a little bit of honey, a little bit of lemon, and a little bit of white clover would be very good for cough, sore throat, fever, cold, or just to relax. The white clover is a good blood cleanser, too. When you eat it, it helps to pull impurities out of it. The red clover actually has antibiotic properties. So if you have chronic Lyme's disease or bacterial infections, issues with that, red clover is a good option. Dandelions. I'm just hitting all of those lovely yard friends. Everything we're trying to poison. The dandelions are like, you keep trying to poison me and I'm just here to save you. Just here to help. Yeah, dandelions are good for cardiovascular health. They're a good detoxifier. Dandelions were brought to America by the Pilgrims basically as a medicine. They were not really considered that much of a food source. They were considered a medicine. The Latin name for dandelion literally translates to the official remedy for every disorder. And really, like if you watch the video that we did on it, when we go into detail over all of the vitamins and minerals that are in dandelion, it is literally a natural multivitamin. It just has so much of everything. It's really, really, really good for you as a food or as a medication, just for overall health. When you break the little stem, a little bit of white milk comes out the bottom of the flower. They would use that as a treatment for warts. Just the milk directly onto a wart over time would get rid of the warts. They're actually pretty high in calcium, which is a really good source for nursing moms and things like that. So they will tell you when you're pregnant or nursing that you need to drink a lot of milk so that you can have calcium. Well, you actually get more calcium from greens than you would from dairy products because we get the milk from the cow who didn't drink milk, it ate greens. The calcium is what you really need for milk production, and you get a lot of that in certain greens. Dandelions is one of them. A half a cup of dandelion greens will contain more vitamins than your average multivitamin. They cleanse the blood. They're a very strong diuretic, especially the root. And you can take the roots, clean them, dry them up, dehydrate them, make a powder, and then throughout the year just make a little tea with it or whatever. If you have fluid retention problems, oh my goodness, I used to call it liquid Lasix. It will drain you out. So Dandelion is a power, but the great thing about natural diuretics is, unlike pharmaceutical diuretics that strip you of your potassium and your electrolytes, they tend to leave the electrolytes alone or replace them while taking out excess fluid. The good thing about the natural remedies is that they'll typically take away what's unnecessary but leave what's good. They'll go and do what you need to be done, and no more and no less. So the Chinese use it to treat tonsillitis. It stimulates the digestive system, which would be all of your stomach juices, stomach acid, gallbladder, bile, all of the things that are needed for good digestion. It promotes liver regeneration. Pretty much anything bitter or sour is going to be good for your liver. And it improves blood pressure. Again, this one alone could probably be its own lecture because there's a lot. Go watch the video, but that's just a few highlights. Mulberries. By the time these other things are going out, our mulberries will be coming in. I love mulberries because I don't have to fight the snakes to pick them, like blackberries. Yeah, you can make a good little dye with them. They're also high in resveratrol just because they're a purple berry. So that means that they're going to be good for cleaning out the arteries, and it's also anti-aging.
In the mulberry, is it true, can you eat the stem or you cannot eat the stem?
Well, you're talking about on the berry itself.
Berry.
You can eat this.
Off the stem.
You don't have to, no.
Okay, well then that was just an old...
Well, and probably, I'll put it to you this way, probably where it came from is because in the branch, in the sap in the branch, there is a very mild hallucinogenic.
Okay, no, not the branch.
Right. But the actual,
The berry.
you can eat the stem.
You can't
Yeah.
eat the stem on the berry?
You can eat the stem on the berry. And you would have to eat a whole lot of branch to
I just wanted to know.
I'll put it to you this way. Even in the branch part where there is a mild hallucinogenic, you would have to be trying to affect yourself because you'd have to eat a whole lot of tree branch.
No, but not to eat it, so I was just...
Yeah. No, I mean, it tastes better if you... When I was a kid, I would pull the stem out too, but as I got older, I was just like, whatever, grow up. But there's no harm in eating, and there's actually a lot of nutritional value. In fact, the leaves are so packed with minerals that it's often used as a livestock supplement, like a multivitamin for livestock, because we don't eat leaves, but if you have livestock, we throw it to them, and it's basically like giving them a huge multivitamin boost. But you can eat the stem. You can eat all of it. And a good way to save these berries throughout the year without taking up all of your freezer space is to just dehydrate the whole berry. Put it in a jar, and you can take it out later and drop it in muffins or make teas with it or whatever, because my freezers fill up, so I'm trying to not have a whole freezer of just berries and stuff. So you can make powders with it later and put it in things.
Does that grow wild in the woods?
These grow wild in Louisiana everywhere, but not all mulberry trees are equal. Sometimes you'll get one that's just bland and flavorless. Sometimes you'll get one that's just amazing. Like my mom has a really good one, so we all try to plant off of that tree. But the birds plant them anywhere. You tend to find them growing really well wherever fig trees are growing. But if you go along the rivers or any waterways and look, you'll find them. They're everywhere. They do grow wild. There's white ones, there's green ones, but the ones that are easiest to identify and see are usually your purple ones. They're good for your heart, good for your cardiovascular system. They lower blood sugar, and they're really high in potassium. So this would be one that I would give with a caution. If you have kidney problems and you can't process out potassium, don't eat that much because they are very high in potassium. But most Americans, unless you have a diagnosed kidney problem, you're going to be low in potassium, and you're going to want some of this. So they're very good for you. But mulberry was actually one of the things that was found to be the most effective of every kind of food or supplement for cleaning out the arteries. And they've actually developed whole big, very expensive supplements that you can buy to clean your arteries out from mulberries. So just go shake the mulberry tree and dry them and keep them and save you some money. They grow wild here. They grow easy. If you don't have any and if you just want to plant one, you can buy them from any nursery and plant them in your yard. You won't have to tend to it. You won't have to spray it. You won't have to do anything. It will just grow. It'll just go. So it's a good tree to have. Don't park your car under it. It's going to stain everything. The birds are going to attack it. They're going to poop on everything and make everything purple. But it's worth it. And they're a good berry. They basically taste like a blackberry, but there's no briars. And they're easy to pick. Just put a tarp under the tree and shake it. And they're going to all fall on the tarp. And so I like mulberries. Echinacea. Echinacea is not indigenous, but it will grow here. So if you want to grow echinacea in your garden, it's very pretty. It's also called the coneflower. It's a very strong antiviral. In many countries in the world, they still use it today to treat scarlet fever. Antivirals are very hard to come by. Even in the pharmaceutical industry, they'll tell you nothing fights viruses. You can take an antibiotic for bacteria, but nothing fights. But in nature, there are a lot of antivirals. Garlic, for example, is a very good, strong antiviral. Echinacea is another one. So for people that deal with chronic viral infections, you can take echinacea every day, and it's not going to bother you, and it will help to counteract and fight off viruses. This is good to have in your pantry for flu season and for sicknesses that come through. In fact, we all know about emergency and all of these immune boosting things that people take, airborne, all of those things. Basically, the main ingredient in airborne and all of those other immune boosters for flu season is vitamin C and echinacea and zinc. That's pretty much the majority of what's in it. So it's very, very good to have, and it's pretty. You can grow it in your yard in a flower bed. It will look like you're decorating, but you're also growing medicine. And it's good to have. And then that way, if something happens and you're in lockdown and the stores are shut down or whatever, you can go outside and know that you have something that you can take that will help. And once it grows, it comes back every year. So you just get it going once, and it'll keep coming.
Do you eat the flowers or the leaves?
The whole plant can be dried into a tea. And you can either grind it up and make a tea and drink it, or you can just eat it. When you buy a capsule at the store, it's going to be the whole plant basically dried up, ground up, and put into a capsule. Yeah, everything. So the roots, the leaves, the flower, it all has medicinal purposes. If you live in an area where there's a lot of wildlife, you may have to watch it or fence it, because the deer do know, and the wildlife knows that it actually has pretty strong pain relieving properties too. So if they're injured or sick or wounded, they're going to seek it out. They're going to come for it. So wildlife will come to eat it if they need it. So plant some out for the wildlife when they're sick. Plant some close to the house for you when you're sick. So that's what the Native Americans did to know what was medicinal. They typically watched the animals and did what the animals did. So when the animals are hurt and they're seeking it out, then they knew that it was probably something that would heal. But there is a pain relieving aspect to it as well. Echinacea is definitely one of my top 3 keep on hand herbs, because it's just good for so many different things. Willow. The willow's coming in right now. Willow, and I don't have this on here, willow is actually a really good natural root starter. You can break it down in water and pour it on your plants, and it will help your young plants to root.
Aspirin's main ingredient.
Right. So basically, willow is going to be the same thing as aspirin, except aspirin is a laboratory manufactured copy of what willow is naturally. So it will do all of the good things that aspirin, but not the bad things, so it won't destroy your stomach. Willow won't tear up your stomach like aspirin will, but it will give you the same fever-relieving, pain-relieving properties. And typically, the way that these things were used was the bark on the young tender shoots that are coming up, like right now, the leaves and the bark would be stripped and dried, and they would either chew on it or crush it into a powder and take a little bit throughout the year whenever it was needed. But it'll thin the blood, it'll work as a blood thinner just like aspirin will. It'll pain relieve, it'll improve circulation, but it won't tear up your stomach like aspirin does over time. So just think willow, just think aspirin without the damage. Again, these things are good for knowledge base. Even if it's easier to go grab an aspirin every now and then, in the day when you need it but don't have it, it's good to know, hey, that willow growing in my backyard can be used for the same thing. Stinging nettles. We're getting out of our yard friends to those lovely hunting buddies there.
The burning weed?
The burning weeds, stinging nettles. Pound for pound, stinging nettles are actually one of the most nutritious plants on the planet, which is probably why God gave them some form of self-defense. Or the wildlife would just eat them up into nothing. They're extremely nutritious. And if you harvest them early, they actually don't have a sting until they're mature. So you can harvest them early without being stung. When they're older, you can harvest them with gloves or just the tender tips, and when you cook them down, the sting goes away. The sting comes from little hairs that actually work as like a little needle that will inject a little stinging toxin into the skin. It's irritating, it's not dangerous, but it's not fun. You don't want to get stung. But they are extremely high in protein. So in a survival situation or a situation where you really needed a food source and you didn't have any ability to hunt or to get something, about 40% of the actual mass of the plant is protein. So they're very, very high as far as plants go in protein. And they're very nutritious. They're high in iron, calcium, and magnesium. They're high in vitamin C. They have actually over 4 times as much vitamin C as oranges. So one of your most, and this isn't part of it because it's not technically an herb, one of your most perfect foods is actually eggs. Every nutrient that you need is in eggs except for vitamin C. So eggs and nettle would sustain you. And nettle is everywhere. And you can dry it and keep it, easily throughout the year.
You do it like a tea?
You can do it like a tea. You can do it like a green. You can cook it like you would spinach. It has kind of a spinachy, it's milder, it tastes different, but basically any way that you would cook spinach, you would cook nettle the same. Or you could make a tea with it if you wanted to do it that way. But nettle is very, very prolific. It's everywhere. It grows all over North America. It's easy to identify, because it stings you. Again, walk around barefooted, you'll find it in the woods. But it's very, very healthy for you.
But you don't eat the flower, just the leaves, right?
The flower is edible too, but typically most people will just eat the little tender tops. In the spring, when it first starts, early summer, when it first starts coming out, the whole plant is tender and you can do it. But as they mature, most people will just pick the tops because the new growth won't have the sting as much as the mature growth will. So people just tend to avoid the stinging parts and just take the tender parts. And they grow in big colonies, so there's always a bunch of it when you find it. So it's not like you have to, try to make the whole plant work. Just take what's good and leave the rest for the deer. It actually has a property in it that's really good for shrinking swollen prostates, which pretty much all men over 40 have issues with. So, but it's really good. Saw palmetto will too, as well, which we do have here. It relieves allergy symptoms. It improves all aspects of diabetes, and it reduces inflammation. So anything associated with diabetes, like your blood sugar, your ACLs, the inflammation, the organ issues that you do get, all of that is improved by stinging nettle. So stinging nettle is a good survival food and medicine. Elderberry. Elderberry, I guess most people know now because even in the stores you can buy the elderberry syrups and the elderberry gummies. They're good for cold and flu. They'll shorten the length of any cold or flu. They're a good immune system support. They're high in vitamin C. They're antiviral, so they're basically good for flu and for colds. They do grow wild here. They need to be processed. They need to be cooked down, typically with a little honey or sugar to make a syrup, and then you would use the syrup. Now, the reason that people use the syrup is because there's a little tiny seed in them, and that seed has a bitter compound that they will tell you is cyanide, so it's poisonous, you'll eat it. It's actually B17, which is a form of, it's not actually cyanide, it's an element connected to cyanide that has another compound with it that protects you. So it's actually only toxic to cancer cells, not to people, which is why it's so hard to find B17 in America, because it's really, really, really anti-cancer fighting. But it is very bitter. also. It's found in apple seeds, in apricot seeds, in bitter almonds and things like that. So a little bit of that every once in a while is actually really good for you. If you eat too much of it, they say it's not good for you. I've never been sick from it, so I don't know. But the syrup is kept, and it will keep all year long, and you just take a little bit when you have a cold, and it'll help you get better. You can buy this already processed in the stores, and it does work pretty good, even if you buy it. But they grow easy. They're kind of like the mulberry. If you have a tree, throw it out on the fence line, and it's just going to grow and thrive and survive, and when you need it, it'll be there. Those are my kind of plants, the ones I don't have to baby. Turmeric. Turmeric is definitely probably my #1 favorite herbal supplement. If I could only have one thing in my medicine cabinet, it would be turmeric, because it just does so much of everything. It's anti-inflammatory, very anti-inflammatory, strong anti-inflammatory. So whether you have joint pains, a lot of the diabetic issues really come from inflammation. A lot of heart issues comes from chronic inflammation. So overall health will be improved if you can reduce your inflammatory markers, and turmeric is extremely anti-inflammatory.
How would you consume that?
Turmeric, it usually it's a root. Basically, it's in the same family as ginger. So the root is usually dried up and ground into a powder. It's this main spice used in curry. It's used as a dye because it's very yellow and it stains. So you can sprinkle it in food. A lot of people put it in food. It's used in curry. But if you want it to take it without having to eat it, you can get it in capsules. If you grow it yourself, it does not grow naturally here, but it will grow. You can plant it. Now, it's a tropical plant, so it won't survive our winters. In its natural environment, it grows year-round, and it just keeps spreading its roots out. But here, if you get a freeze, it's going to die down. So just dig up the roots, put them in a brown paper bag, put them in a dark place, keep them in the spring, replant it. Or plant you a big pot that you can take inside and keep breaking roots off and plant if you want it to grow it yourself. It's good to have. I would recommend you having at least one. It's kind of like the aloe vera, that plant that everybody has because you need it, even though it's not going to survive outside on its own. It'll survive through the summer, but it won't survive our winters. But you can grow it through the summer, harvest it, and replant in the spring. That's what I do. It makes a very pretty plant that looks like a little banana tree that only gets about this big. So it's a good little border plant. It looks very tropical. It's very pretty. It's anti-inflammatory, antiviral, antibacterial, antimicrobial, antiparasitic, anti-cancer. It's basically against everything that is against you. It is the best herb to have. It's definitely one of my best picks. And if you don't have one in your house, you can buy big bottles of it for really cheap and just have in your cabinet because it's worth having. Anytime you're sick, start taking it. You can take it every 4 hours if you need to. But on a regular basis, especially if you have inflammatory, painful conditions, just take some every day because it is accumulative. The more it's in your system, the more potent it is. And it won't hurt you. Honey, raw honey is one of those, you got to have a little discernment with it. It's very good for you, but it does raise glucose. So you don't want to go crazy and have, honey's good for me, so I can just slather everything in honey. It will raise your blood sugar. Even the Bible has a proverb that says it's not good to have honey every single day. God's like, I'm giving you something good and sweet. Don't overdo it. Because that's what we do. We overdo it. But wild honey, raw honey, again, we have to preface that this is raw honey because when you go to a store and buy honey, there was a study done on store-bought honey, and they found that over 70% of all the honey tested came back as not even honey. It was either cut so much by sugar syrups, or it had been so processed out that there was no pollen or anything left in it that could identify it as honey. So store-brand honeys a lot of times are not actually honey. You're just paying a lot of money for expensive syrup. So, but some are, so just do your research. But if you can buy local, that's always better because when you eat local honey, you're actually inoculating yourself against local pollen, which is helping you to become resistant to local seasonal allergies. So every time you eat it, you're becoming stronger against allergies. You're not just repairing the sickness that you have, but you're becoming resistant to being affected by it in the future. And the reason for that is simply that the honey is made from local pollen. So as you eat the local pollen, your body is becoming more and more resistant to being affected by the local pollen. Honey is my choice of sweetener of all the sweeteners, even though it does affect your glucose a little bit. If you have it in moderation and you're eating a pretty clean diet, it's not going to be enough to hurt you. But it's a whole food, and it's actually giving you benefits. So you're getting minerals, you're getting nutrition, it's antibiotic, you're getting benefit from it while you're having your stuff sweetened, as opposed to just plain raw sweetness with no benefit. Plus, sugar is extremely inflammatory, so it's going to make every sickness and every condition worse. One of the main problems with sugar, too, is that it's kind of the counterfeit vitamin C. When you consume sugar, your body, instead of absorbing vitamin C, will always absorb the sugar in place of it. That's why sugar drops your immune system, because it blocks you from absorbing vitamin C, which boosts your immune system. So when your body's saying vitamin C, sugar, vitamin C, you can't tell the difference. It always grabs the sugar first, so you don't get the vitamin C. So sugar lowers your immune system. So if you ever notice that if you go on a no sugar diet, you stop getting sick. I know from me, because I don't eat sugar often, but every once in a while I'll indulge, and then I catch what everybody else has. And I'm like, why did I do it? It'll weaken your immune system, as well as all of the other problems that come with it. So honey is always your better option. It's going to be your better replacement. It's antimicrobial. You can use it on the skin as a wound care cover to help to kill off bacteria. It was used like that in many countries for thousands of years under a bandage. It's good for treating sore throats and wounds. And you're going to always want, if you can, locally harvested honey. Lemons. Again, lemons aren't indigenous here, but you can plant them and they will grow, especially if you can plant them on the south side of a building where they're a little protected from the north wind. They're high in vitamin C, high in antioxidants. They're a natural diuretic that won't deplete potassium. Again, they'll pull off excess fluid. Interesting thing about lemons is that even though they're an acid, they will actually make the body alkaline. This doesn't apply to orange juice or grapefruit juice or anything else like that. Those will make you very acidic. But lemon juice, what makes the body acidic or alkaline has a lot to do with the minerals that are in the plant. And as you begin to process them out, what the body burns in each cell is burning off those minerals, and it's going to leave behind an ash. Lemons leave behind an alkaline ash. So lemons are only acidic in the only place in your body where you need a lot of acid, and that's your stomach. You drink it, it's acidic in your stomach, you need acid in your stomach. That's what breaks down your food. There's a lot of minerals and stuff that you can't, like iron. You can't pull iron out of your food without enough stomach acid. You need an acidic stomach. Lemon juice gives you that. But as soon as it's digested, it turns alkaline, and it brings your whole body down into an alkaline state. So lemons are really good for bringing the body into an alkaline state, and it's really hard for cancer and a lot of sicknesses to survive in an alkaline state. So lemons could have their own whole lecture too. They have a lot of benefits. Try to get a little bit of lemon into your diet. And again, sour and bitter things help to heal the liver.
You just put it in water? Just
lemon and water. Yep, lemon and water. You can use it on your salads, in a salad dressing.
Oh, yeah, right.
Like, anywhere you can put it. But yeah, drink a little lemon water every day. Or if you don't want to have to torture yourself drinking lemon water all day, just take a shot of the lemon juice. And
I put something in my bottle of water.
Mm-hmm.
You buy a little squirt thing.
Yeah.
That's not maybe the same thing, but I squirt it in there and I drink it. It's supposed to clear your liver out.
Yep. It's
Flushes your liver.
very, very good for your liver. It's also very good for your skin because it's high in antioxidants. It'll fade dark spots off of your skin, and it'll help to make your skin look clear and even and young. In fact, lemon juice and egg white are going to do more for your face than any expensive facial cream you can buy, because the egg white is collagen. So the collagen and the vitamin C together. Like, you buy these expensive little creams and potions, lotions and potions, and it says vitamin C. Vitamin C It kind of evaporates. It dissipates into the air very quickly when it's opened. So what you're getting in those bottles is hardly any vitamin C, if any. There may have been a little vitamin C when they made it, but it's no longer there when you get it. You can buy ascorbic acid powders, and you can mix that with a little water and use that. But really, your best source is going to be a little lemon juice because it's still available. Goldenrod. There you go. And that's what everybody says. Why? Because goldenrod comes out at the same time of the year as ragweed and milkweed. And it's really usually typically those that are actually triggering the allergies. You can make a tea with this that'll actually help your allergies. The Latin name for goldenrod translates to heal. It means to heal. It's a plant that heals. One of the best aspects of goldenrod is that it's very antifungal. So people that have candida problems, which is a lot of people, fungal problems, you can correct that with goldenrod tea. And again, you would just dry it out, flowers and leaves, and just use it as a tea throughout the year. You wouldn't want to eat a whole bunch of it because it's antifungal. You just want enough to help to correct the problem. You don't want to overdo it because you want to keep your gut kind of in balance. You don't want too much antibiotic. You don't want too much antifungal, but it's good to get a little bit here and there to kind of keep things in balance. It reduces inflammation, kind of like the turmeric. Usually your more golden things tend to be better at anti-inflammatory. They are known for improving urinary tract health. So anything to do with UTI, urinary tract, kidneys, fluid retention, goldenrod is really good for that. They have antioxidants that protect against damage, and they again increase cellular respiration, which is the carrying of oxygen through the blood to the different parts of the body, which just gives you more energy. Those are easy to identify. They come out in the fall. They do grow wild here. And again, you can dry it up, put it in a jar, keep it all year. Cayenne pepper. We love our cayenne. You do have, these grow well here. They grow very easy here. You can grow these, dry them, and put them up. Cayenne is amazing for circulation. Cayenne brings healing wherever you apply it because it moves blood. And wherever the blood is flowing, it's producing healing. It's cleaning and bringing life. So they do put poultices of cayenne on wounds and stuff, but typically it's used more internally for healing stomach ulcers, intestinal lesions. Now, black pepper and a lot of your peppers will hurt your stomach and hurt ulcers. Cayenne will not. Cayenne will actually heal it. So you can take away all the other peppers if you have a problem and just replace it with the cayenne, and it will stop hurting and it'll begin to heal it. So cayenne is very healing to your stomach, and it creates a good circulation in your blood. So for people that are on blood thinners, it dilates the veins. So if you have issues with blood flow because you don't have good dilation in your veins and arteries, it will cause dilation. And in fact, a lot of people have gotten completely off of a lot of their blood pressure medicines by taking cayenne. You can buy it in capsules if it's too hot. I usually just put a little bit extra in all my food, and it's enough. Sometimes I'll make a lemon drink and add a little cayenne to it because I don't even taste it or feel it anymore because I've done it for so long. You kind of just get used to it. But it's really, really good for blood flow, blood circulation issues. Slippery elm. You can buy this at the store unless you have an elm tree close and that you know what it is, but you can't get it from the elm tree. I throw this in there because a lot of people are having stomach issues, especially since COVID. It seems to have messed up a lot of people's digestive tracts. Slippery elm is extremely good for your stomach. So whether it's feeling like ulcers, or basically what slippery elm does is it heals and replaces the mucous membrane. So inside your stomach, there's a mucous membrane, and inside your intestines that protects you because you have acid in your stomach, and so that your stomach acid, which can digest a steak, doesn't digest you. There's a protective barrier that's called the mucous membrane. There's natural bacteria in your stomach that you need. Without the mucous membrane, those bacteria will start attacking and eating the lining of your intestines and of your stomach and cause all kinds of problems and damage. A lot of sicknesses like Epstein-Barr virus damages the mucous membrane, which then begins to cause a lot of other digestive issues. So you end up with all these irritable bowel syndrome and gastritis and all these millions of names for all the things that come down to problems with the guts and the stomach. The first step towards fixing all of that is simply to heal and replace the mucous membrane. Slippery elm will do that, and it'll do it quick. So, and you can take it as much as you need. Some people may have to take it every time they eat for a few weeks until their body has a chance to start to heal and repair. And then you may take it every day, and then you may take it as needed, a couple times a year. But slippery elm is a good one to have. It heals the stomach, esophagus, and intestines. It helps with reflux because it heals the mucous membrane. When you're dealing with gut health, what you want is a good bacterial balance in your gut. You want a strong mucous membrane, and you want decent stomach acid. That's going to fix 90% of all of the problems in the stomach and the digestion. So increasing the acid in the stomach, putting back that mucous membrane, and then getting the bacteria flora back to normal is going to go a long way towards healing probably 70% of most sicknesses. Cruciferous vegetables. This is going to be stuff you're going to want to grow in your garden, usually mostly through the winter. That's going to be things like broccoli, kale, collard greens, Brussels sprouts, basically all of your dark leafy greens. Cruciferous means cross-shaped flowers. The easiest way to remember the benefits, this is probably one of your most beneficial plant groups because it cleanses your blood. So if you think of it, cruciferous means cross-shaped. For those who go to church, you'll know the cross represents the blood of Jesus. His blood cleanses our blood. It's a good way to remember that these plants cleanse the blood. So any issue that you have that's stemming from blood issues, it's going to help to cleanse. It's going to detox. Basically, the cruciferous vegetables take out all that's bad, and then healthy eggs and meat products will give your body what it needs to rebuild what is good. So your proteins build, but your cruciferous cleanse. So they take away the bad, and then you want to put back in the good.
What would be a cruciferous vegetable, like spinach or mustard greens?
Yep, all those dark leafy greens. So mustard greens, collard greens, kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, all of those. When the plants that bolt and they make those little cross-shaped yellow flowers, that's all your cruciferous vegetables. All right, this one is not a supplement, but I have to throw it in there as we kind of come to a close. Sunlight. Because everything that I've kind of given you today was stuff that you could either find growing wild or plant yourself. Because if you can't get it, what good does it do you? There's a lot of stuff that we could talk about that you have to go buy or that's manufactured, but if you can't get it, it doesn't pay to know it. So you can either grow it or you can find it, then that's what's going to be able to help you. The most available resource we have is sunlight. And you would not believe how important sunlight is to your health. That's why a lot of times whenever they want people to get sick, what do they tell you? Go inside, lock the doors, be afraid, don't go outside. People actually got arrested for being on the beach during the lockdowns and stuff, when in actuality the salt water and the sunlight would have been better than any medication they could have bought. Your body needs sunlight to produce vitamin D. Vitamin D is anti-inflammatory. It's immune supporting. Your parasympathetic nervous system, you have two nervous systems in your body. You have the parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest. So what your body needs to heal and to build is all controlled by the parasympathetic nervous system. It's what brings you into a relaxed state, slows your heart rate down, activates all of your digestion, which is all of the valves that are needed to open and close to keep you from getting GERD and reflux, the controlling of your heart functions, your digestive juices like your stomach acid, your intestines, all of your organs. It's all controlled by the parasympathetic nervous system. The other side is called the fight or flight. That's the sympathetic nervous system. Normally, when you're in fight or flight mode, scared for your life, the sympathetic takes over. It shuts down digestion because you don't need to be worried about eating or using the bathroom when you're running for your life. That's okay in short term, but your body's not designed to be stuck like that all the time because your heart rate elevates, your breathing elevates, everything that you need to just run elevates. And a lot of people get stuck that way because of the stressful lifestyles that we live, and some sicknesses will trigger it too. And it's going to wear your body down quick. You can't digest. You start having all these problems with your nervous system. You start having all of these anxieties and stress, and then they tell you you need to be on anxiety medicine. When you're in a fight or flight mode, one of the major issues is that you have a vitamin D deficiency. Because the parasympathetic nervous system, the main thing that it runs on is vitamin D. Now, there are some sicknesses like Epstein-Barr and long COVID that will shut down the body's ability to naturally absorb and utilize vitamin D, which will then trigger all of these other problems. It'll take you out of the parasympathetic nervous system so you can't rest and you can't digest. And it's just like you're stuck in stress, fast forward, and you're dying on your feet. The quickest way to reverse it is vitamin D. And if you're having an absorption problem with vitamin D through your intestines and your stomach, the quickest way to get it is through your skin. So get out in the sunlight. Now, you can't absorb vitamin D without magnesium. So if you're having these issues, an Epsom salt bath will help because Epsom salt is magnesium sulfate. So if you soak in hot water and Epsom salt, your skin will absorb the magnesium, and then you go out in the sun, your skin will absorb the vitamin D, and it will fix a lot of the problems that you've been having, and then you'll be able to get back into the parasympathetic nervous system, and your body can begin to heal and rebuild. So a lot of people are dealing with these issues right now. So sunlight is very important. Another thing, 50% of the sun's light is infrared, because you have different ways. Infrared kills viruses, and infrared goes completely through our body. So if you hold the light up to your thumb, there's different spectrums of light, like ultraviolet. Ultraviolet is a purplish light. You don't see purple coming through your thumb because your body stops it. It doesn't absorb, it doesn't go through. It absorbs it, it doesn't go through. So it doesn't show green because your body absorbs it, it doesn't go through. If you put a light up to your finger, it's going to be red. That's because infrared is the only light spectrum that can completely pass through the entire human body, and it kills viruses. So being out in the sun is actually going to kill viruses that other things can't. So it's going to pass completely through you and be cleansing and killing those viruses. So you actually get a lot of health benefits from being out in the sun. That's why the healthiest people we know are those old gardeners that spend all their time out in the sun eating their vegetables. So get some sunlight. So, all right, and we're going to close really quick with this because we're going to talk just for a minute about the major triggers for sickness. The number one major trigger for sickness is going to be stress. Stress is going to weaken your immune system. Stress is going to put you into the sympathetic nervous system, which is going to shut down everything that you need to build and repair. It's okay for a moment, but if you stay like that, everything is going to start breaking down. In fact, for anyone who's interested, on our church's website, I did a whole lesson, a teaching called The Garden, that talks about all the ways that the Bible tells you to be healthy. And if you look at it, it's all things that have been scientifically proven to activate the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest. You're healing and you're rebuilding when you're in peace, when you have trust, when you have faith and not fear. So if you want to remove the enemy's ability to put all of these sicknesses on you, you need to lower the stress in your life. However you can do that. If it's building your trust and faith in God, if it's getting away from things that are triggering the stress, if it's getting away from certain people or situations, if it's turning the news off and going sit in the garden for a little while, do what you can to lower the stress in your life, because that's going to keep you healthy. Another major trigger for sickness is modern wheat. And I'm sorry, I know we love wheat. And then we all think, well, wheat's been around forever. Wheat can't be that bad. Even Jesus is represented as bread in the Bible. It can't be bad. The wheat that God made was not bad. The wheat that we eat is not the wheat that God made. That's the wheat that man made. So,
Wheat germ is not good for 'em?
modern wheat germ, again, you're looking at different levels of, yeah, it might be better than a candy bar, but it's not as good as the original wheat because there's issues. Basically, the modern wheat that we eat right now in around the 50s, okay, let's start from the beginning. The original wheat that God created, so the kind of wheat that Adam and Eve would have ate, was your incorn wheat. Incorn wheat is an old wheat. You can get it. It's expensive. It's hard to find, but you can get it. It doesn't make the big fluffy soft breads that we make now because it doesn't have that strong of a gluten, but it's a good wheat. I have some. I use it. It's pretty good. Then you skip ahead to the next time it naturally hybridized, which means that just as they grew it in different places, it crossbred with local grasses, and you developed an emmer wheat. Emmer wheat was used in Egypt. So around the time of Joseph and the coat of many colors, they would have been using emmer wheat. You skip ahead to another natural hybridization when it went into Rome. It cross-pollinated with Roman grasses, and you get spelt. Spelt would have been what was used by like Paul and the apostles in that time period. That's the wheat that was used up until around the 50s. You can still get spelt, and it's not that hard to find, and it's not that expensive. So if you make sourdough spelt, you actually have a pretty good bread product that's pretty easily digestible and not as inflammatory. What happened was in the 50s, they hybridized it in a lab with a genetic hybridization with something called goat grass. The goat grass mixed with the wheat and created modern wheat, which produces up to 10 times as much as the older wheat, and it doesn't have a husk. The husk on it basically is so light that it falls off during harvesting, so they don't have to thresh it. They don't have to get it off. So it saves them money, it saves them time, and they get a lot more out of it. Problem is, you can't digest it, and it makes you really sick. So now we have all of these people that are having gluten intolerance, gluten insensitivities, gluten allergies and sicknesses, all of the blue. Where did this come from? Well, it's because they messed up the wheat. So a lot of health issues now are stemming from gut problems that are being triggered by modern wheat. That's why almost everybody that's having health problems improves when they get off of the wheat. It's not the wheat's fault, it's man's fault for messing up the wheat. But if you want a healthier life and you're having health issues, avoiding the modern wheat will help. One of the things that it does is it triggers a toxin in the body that attacks the beta cells in the pancreas and makes you a diabetic. It kills your pancreas. And it also creates a toxin that triggers an effect in the body that causes it to jump up to somewhere around like 100% glucose response in the wheat, whereas table sugar is only around 50. So it's going to act like it has a lot more glucose than it really does just because of the way the toxin is affecting the pancreas. So it will cause diabetic issues. And the whole wheat actually is worse than the white wheat because it has more of that toxin in it, even though it has less of the glucose. So, yeah, that's the bummer because we all love our flour. But it's a big trigger to sickness. In fact, you can watch videos of like old Aborigines people whenever the British first colonized Australia, and they'll talk about how when their diet changed when the flour and the wheat came in and how sick they all started getting where they didn't even know what sickness was before that. So sugar and flour are hugely going to affect your immune system. I wouldn't say never eat it because it's almost impossible. Limit it where you can. And when you know sickness is going around, fast it. Just don't weaken your immune system when you know everybody's getting sick right now. You know, when the husband comes home sick and you don't want to get it, stop eating the flour and the sugar. Take your vitamins and try to boost your immune system. And don't eat it any more than you have to, because that's one of the things that's overstressing the liver, trying to get all of that toxin out of you. So that's going to be a big, big factor. We talked a little bit poor gut health. Oh, you have something?
The gluten-free flour that you can purchase.
Gluten-free flours don't have the gluten, but they're typically made of a bunch of chemicals or starches from other grains that are very high on the glycemic index. So they will trigger very high glucose responses, so it can fix your sugar. If you don't ever have problem with blood sugar issues, you might be able to handle it, but I wouldn't have a whole lot of it just because it's going to be so hard on your pancreas to process that much, rice starch or whatever. So they're okay for, a birthday or whatever, a special event, but it's not something I would be eating every single day. Even things like the almond flours, it's okay on occasion, but your body was not designed to digest that much almond all the time. Because when you grind it into a flour, your brain isn't telling you how much almonds you're eating. If you eat almonds out of a bag, you're going to eat a handful maybe and stop. But when you make pancakes out of almond flour, you're eating cups and cups and cups of almonds. That's really hard on your digestive system. That's digesting, basically wood. So there's give and takes. I think ultimately in the end, we're always looking for what can I replace my problem with, when really sometimes it's best to just give it a break. Do we really need to eat as much as we do all the time? In fact, that's one of the ones on the list. I don't know, might be the next one. No, too much sugar. One of the problems with our health is that we've gotten into this idea that we need to be snacking all the time, grazing, and our bodies were not designed for that. The body needs time to rest, to heal, to digest, to take a break, to re-prepare for the next meal. Typically, like in the Bible, anytime God fed people, it was twice a day. And I'm not saying that as a law, because sometimes it depends on your condition and your health, and where you eat and what you eat. But I think we can all agree that we probably need to take longer breaks in between what we're eating to give our organs a chance to kind of rest and prepare. Then we can handle a little bit of that extra stuff every once in a while. It's okay to have a holiday and a birthday and all these things, but we don't need to be eating a birthday cake every day. We don't need to be eating, donuts for breakfast. That's not a breakfast, that's a dessert. Cinnamon rolls. Who said that's a breakfast food? That's a dessert. So I think, we eat these cereals that are so full of sugar and grains, and then all of a sudden they come out with Cookie Crisp. Cookies for breakfast? Well, it's like, now they're at least admitting that's what you've been eating. That's not a good breakfast. It's not a good way to start the day. In fact, breakfast means breaking the fast. That's when you break the fast. And the first thing you eat when you break a fast will set your cravings for the rest of the fast. So if you wake up and eat a bunch of sugar, you're going to be chasing that sugar high for the rest of the day and wanting that and craving and being so tired and exhausted and trying to rebuild it, get that rush back, and you're not going to get it. Just like a drug addict trying to chase down that high and get it back again, and you're not getting it. So the first thing you eat really should be something a little more healthy, and we should have less snacking in between. Too much sugar, I don't think we even need to talk too much about it, because we all know too much sugar is bad. It's really hard for the liver. It's really hard for the pancreas. It's hard to digest. You might feel better while you're eating it because it's releasing a bunch of endorphins. Sugar actually is a stronger effect on the brain than heroin in addiction and in craving and in making you feel good in the moment, but then making you crash and depressed and wanting more of it after. Sugar is a drug. Sugar is the most widely distributed drug on the planet.
What about sweet and low?
All synthetic sugars are going to be bad for your organs. They're going to destroy your liver, your kidneys, your pancreas, your brain. Most of aspartame and all of those cause brain lesions. They cause cancer. Some of your Splenda even is basically a molecule of sugar combined with a molecule of chlorine. Whenever we have a train derail and there's chlorine leaks, what do? Evacuate the area. But it's okay, we'll mix it with sugar and feed it to the people. So it's really all going to harm you. The healthiest sugar is going to be honey, but in moderation. Just not something you're going to have every day. Stevia is a sweetener that is all natural. It comes from a plant, and it won't spike glucose at all. It has a zero effect on glucose. It's very sweet. It doesn't take much. It has a little bit of an aftertaste, but if you use maybe a little honey and a little stevia, you can reduce the amount of honey that you're using without. So that's what I do typically, is I might use some stevia, some honey, some monk fruit, so I don't get those weird aftertastes, but still don't get as much of the sugar. Monk fruit is another one that won't spike your blood sugar, and it's completely natural. So rule of thumb is, if it's still the way God made it, it's probably okay for you. If man has altered it in any way, it's probably going to slowly kill you, because we think we know what we're doing, but that's pride. We don't. It's pretty much usually better the way that it is, which processed food kind of comes into that. If it's not the way God made it, it's doing something damaging to the body. So chemicals, be careful of the chemicals on your food. Make sure you wash your store-bought things, because you know it's all coming with chemicals. Overwhelming the body system, that's eating too much, doing too much, not giving your liver time to repair and rest. Lack of rest. This is a big one, I think, for Americans, because we do too much all the time. No rest. Rest is so important to you that God actually commands people to take 1 day a week to rest. We look at the 10 Commandments, and it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not. You don't have to. I'm just making a point that for thousands and thousands of years, this has been a known fact that the human body needs to rest. It needs time to recover. The Bible says that we should rest 1 day a week at least to give our body time to repair. And we look at the 10 Commandments, and we know it says don't kill people. Well, I think we can all agree that we shouldn't kill people. That's good advice. You know, it says don't commit adultery. We think that's pretty good advice. You know, don't lie, don't steal. Yeah, that's pretty good advice. Then it says take a day off every week and rest. And we're like, well, that's the one I'm going to skip. That's the one that's for us. That's a good one, you know. But we tend to think we have to take care of everybody else, and in the meantime, we're killing ourselves. Stress, overwork, no rest, no sunlight, no time out in nature. These things will produce a sick body. And then, of course, lack of sun is a huge factor. So go out in the sun. So if you want to think about things that heal the body and are good for you, think the Garden of Eden. Go out in the sun, eat things that are still the way God made it, take some time to rest, pray, meditate, spend time with God, whatever that is for you. Grow a garden. Go grow a garden. It'll make you feel better. It'll help you to learn things. Tend to it, learn how to harvest wild things. Wild foods are always more nutrient dense than anything you can buy or even grow, and it's easy and it's readily available. So that's going to be the things that you're going to want to do to try to mitigate sickness, being sick. And then when you do get sick, build your nutrition, drink your teas, get your healthy foods, lemon, garlic, all those things Grandma made you do, and you'll get better. Really, it comes down to nutrition, giving your body what it needs and stop bombarding it with all the things that it doesn't need. Sunlight, rest, trust in God. And that's what we have. Before we close, are there any questions or any specific ailments that anybody wants to ask about?
Where do you do this? I want to see this whole minute. I think it's amazing what you do. Really.
Okay. If you go on YouTube and you look up Survival HT, so you can just take a note. HT as in how to, survival how to. You'll find the channel where we teach all these things. We will put this whole video up, edited with things that will make it easier to see for those who want specific information from this video. But if you go on the channel, there is a playlist of wild edibles that has each thing individually with a lot more information on uses for each one. Because like I said, we've been here, I don't know, it feels like a while, but to put all the information would just probably take a week of lectures. So, yes, ma'am.
You're an awesome guy.
Thank you. Thyroid is typically an iodine issue. So you can take iodine supplements or you can eat a lot of crawfish. There you go. Seafood, shrimp, anything red is going to have iodine in it. You can also just Google foods high in iodine. But seafood is typically going to have your iodine. Iodine is going to help to balance out the thyroid. And one of the problems is if you're iodine deficient, your body's going to grab at every radiation that it can because radiation mimics iodine. That's why if a nuclear bomb goes off, soldiers have iodine tablets in their bag and they take iodine immediately. Because if they saturate the body with iodine, they won't absorb the radiation and they won't get thyroid cancer. Because the body is, if you're deficient, is grabbing at radiation. So when you're low in iodine, you're going to have thyroid issues and you're going to eventually have cancer issues if you're around a lot of radiation because your body's looking for that iodine and radiation mimics it. So again, getting rid of the bad stuff and getting what you need in the good stuff. Sea salt does have, some salts have iodines added to them. Yeah. A good salt, you want to eat like Himalayan pink salts or Celtic salts or good salts like Celtic salt is really good because it's going to give you more minerals. Yeah. So.
Can
All right.
we give Miranda?
You're an awesome guy.
Thank you, sir.
We want to thank y'all for coming. And actually, we just got to be a nonprofit, Friends of the Old Sarto Iron Bridge and Big Bend Museum. And Brittany and I would like to encourage you all to please join. That way you'll be able to help us in trying to get more things like this done. So, Brittany, would you like to tell them how to do this? Get the Friends of the Sarto Iron Bridge or your museum's number, whatever?
Yeah, you can just pick up a brochure, or I can print you a membership form. It'll tell you everything you need to know about the nonprofit, and then you just fill out a membership form, and dues are $20 a year, and you can be a part of all of this. You can help put on these events. You can use your skills and talents to give something back to your community, and in doing so, you help out the Friends of the Sarto Old Iron Bridge and Big Bend Museum.
And if you think she did a good job on this, you ought to hear this song, this lady sing some religious song. It pierces your heart. It's so good. I'm serious.
It's true.
I am serious.
Yeah.